From Trimble Construction, you're listening to the Connected Construction Show, where we connect you to the contractors, owners, designers, engineers, and construction professionals who are finding better ways to work. And now, here's your host, Matt Sprague.
Hello and welcome back to the Connected Construction Show. I am your host, Matt Sprague. Thank you all very much for joining us again this week. This week's guest, very excited to have Gjermund Dahl, who is the leader in digital transformation for Norconsult. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here.
So we want to get to know you a little bit before we dive into today's topic.
Sure.
So we're going to be talking, I think, a lot about digital twins. But before we kind of get into that, in my opinion, enigmatic concept, let's get to know you a little bit. What's your background? What do you do? How did you get to where you are today?
So my name is Gjermund, or Jerry, as I normally do in talking to you in the US and other countries. I've been working with infrastructure projects now for over 13 years, mainly road and rail projects, and doing implementation of BIM in those projects, and also internally in our consultancy firms. Do have a background as a road designer, so going into rail projects and road project is my passion, of course. I have a passion also for lean construction and got my yellow belt in lean. So trying to step up next time, get some brown belts, black belts, maybe in lean for the future. Otherwise, 2 electric cars, 1 pet, no, 0 pets. 1 kid, and one kid arriving at Christmas Eve this year. So that's that's exciting. Not putting it under the tree, but we'll see.
We don't want anybody to call the authorities on you.
No. Do actually have a family in Michigan, US, so a connection there. So that's exciting. And my motivation has always been disruption, so implementing new tech to projects that have high ambitions, but also working with clients and projects that see a potential for digitalization.
That's awesome. I love that your passion has always been in disruption. I like that. That's like that's like a good quote, right? It's a thought-provoking quote.
Challenging the status quo. It's my kind of line of work. Yeah, absolutely.
So, what's the company that you work for? And I guess what do they do? And how do you plug in?
Norconsult is actually Norway's biggest consultancy firm. So we do design work, consultancy work with all disciplines, so road, buildings, hydropower, everything that we need for a Norwegian project. We are approximately 5,500 people. So in Norwegian scale, it's big, but probably not compared to the biggest one in US or Europe. And we're spread all over Norway. So working locally is our goal. And we do 20,000 projects a year. So working a lot with different clients, different big projects, small projects. And this year we had a new goal or strategy, and that is being number 1 in digital execution. So working in Norconsult, we set a goal of being having a strategy for digitalization, and for me, working with BIM and project, but also then having the possibility to aggregate that or work strategically is it's a motivation and a possibility in Norconsult.
So is that so you said you wanted your goal was to be number 1. So is there within Norway, is there basically like a ranking system? Like how do you become number 1? Or is it like is it like the every pizzeria, best pizza in town?
there are some rankings, but probably no ranking from the client side. But us as consultants, we do have this fight, and I get angry when other people win projects. So we want to be the best, and we try to get some metrics from our side that going out of this strategy in a couple of years that we are the best. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so digital twins. This is one of my favorite things to discuss because it's, as I said before, it's in my opinion, it's so enigmatic, right? It's being defined. It's defined differently. It's perceived differently in different areas. So, what is your definition of a digital twin?
Yeah, I see a lot of discussions being made in standardization committees and groups. Building smart is something at least big in Europe. So I will not try to step in to do another definition of the digital twin actually, but a digital representation of a physical asset is a clean and simple one, probably. And from my perspective, it's actually two parts here. We have one is the static part that we see out there, that we can go out and scan and see, that has been built actually by the laws and the rules and the guidelines and the laws that we have. So the static part, and then we also have the dynamic part, the things that we can measure, sensors, Internet of Things, that gives you feedback to this static part. And then trying to optimize between the static part and this dynamic part. We see, we can find the optimization, we can see the prediction of the future. So, so not trying to make up another definition, but for me, the static part that we see out there today and the dynamic part that gives us the feedback back to the digital twin or to the digital representation.
Now, is the dynamic part, do you find that is mostly utilized in the asset management of or the management of the asset, or is there a dynamic part to the construction of that asset as well?
I think it's both. Focus probably most on the maintenance stage, that we can find sensors that optimize when we need to replace things, of course, predict the future, but also having the digital model early on to connect us with the site, with the contractor, from everything from air pollution to having new scans every night. It's a part of it. Yeah.
So what's in your mind, like what's the potential for digital twins? I'm making an assumption that we're scratching the surface, right? We haven't necessarily truly realized everything that we can benefit from it. So like, what are those benefits? What is the potential of a digital twin?
Yeah, and I tried to dive in to find some statics or stats, quantifiable or not, but I don't find anything actually at least from the infrastructure side. But when you go into the airplane industry, for example, that has worked more with this than us, they say that AI-based flight analyzing with digital twins could lead to a 30% increase in aircraft uptime, for example. And they also say that 25% reduction in hours of scheduling maintenance through optimization of their processes. So there is a potential here, but for infrastructure, I'm not sure if you've seen them yet.
Still scratching the surface, like I said.
Yeah, we're scratching the surface. Yeah,
we're starting to see it. So, tell me about a project that you've embarked upon that involves the delivery of a digital twin. You know, how did it need to be constructed or structured rather in order for it to have success?
Yeah. We have started with a lot of design build contracts in Norway, and we have this project that's close to Oslo, the municipality or the capital of Norway, which I'm working on, the E18, and there's a lot of goals within this project for reducing greenhouse gases, reduce air pollution, noise, reduce number of people killed, of course. So they have set a lot of high ambition goals, and they also include in this tender a lot of demands regarding BIM level 3 or high ambitions around the deliverables from the contractor. So they set out to get a deliverable from the consultants, Norconsult, and also from this contractor. In this case, is Skanska, a phenomenal contractor also in the US and Europe, to deliver information that could be at a higher value for the future. So setting up a structure, how we could set up the standardization for the data models is one part of it. Another part is the standardization for the data management and integrations, so for APIs, and also giving us some feedback on data security and privacy. So cloud use restrictions, placements of servers. So it's complex. But if you try to break it down to something tangible, it's delivering models on IFC formats, so open format, using cloud solutions and cloud solution that we could have a potential deliverable from to a asset information model, IMA model in the future. Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to a project that is going to have a digital twin delivered upon, is it so from your seat, from the consultant seat, are you driving it, or have the owners within Norway started to say this is standard, this is the way we expect projects to be delivered?
In 2000, I think it's 2012, they started doing this first BIM manual or guideline for delivering BIM models within projects. So setting demands for what you call disciplinary models, what each discipline, the road, the water, sewer, the electronics should deliver, and also setting demands for how to do scans of the existing situation. So the static part of the digital twin. So they said that back in 2016. And along with the years, we've gotten some feedback on that. They've done new demands. And in 2016, there was a big shift in Norway. And we got a new National Roads Administration. And they set the ambition high. So they went out demanding BIM level 3 and IFC standards, aiming at the ISO 19650. And then we, as a consultant, needed to accommodate those demands and trying to figure out how we could accommodate those demands. And from there, it has really skyrocketed in Norway for infrastructure. Mm-hmm.
But it sounded like it started from a government recommendation or a government mandate. Yeah. That drove that change in the industry. And I understand that you're dealing with the rails and whatnot, but at least from your viewpoint, is it similarly transitioning over to the private sector as well, or are the same type of standards being required?
Not as much as in the private sector. I didn't mention, but there has been a good workflow or data flow from the consultancy side to the construction side in Norway for a long, long time. We've not used open formats, but getting data to the construction site for the excavation has been a success for many years. And also that in the private sector. But to shift to open formats using cloud that's more lately. Mm.
So when we met a little over a month ago, and we were chatting about you got to or you had a meeting with our CEO Rob Painter, in talking about the areas that are important to enable success is collaboration between the designers and the contractors. So, what? Elaborate on that discussion that Rob Painter was involved in, and what potential do you see really working closer with the contractors? There's a quote that says, "I have not failed. I only found 10,000 works of not working with it, and one that won't work." Right. So, and working with contractors, they have a lot of experience. And so they have failed a lot of times, tried new stuff. And they also see a more bigger picture than a consultant. So they know what works in the ditch, they know what works on the site, and talking to them, we can really step up our game, delivering what they need when they need it, and also providing more information that's more accurate within these disciplinary models. So the properties in the IFC file, to be more specific, is more accurate and what they need, and we also can include more of the information that they normally use or they normally have to deliver from their side when a project is finished. So we can implement information about the asset information model or what's going to be the digital twin on an early stage. And that saves them a lot of time. And as we talked with your CEO, is that if the tools can provide that information early on, it has a big value for those kind of contractors. Got you. So there's better communication. So I look at this very stepping aside from like the large digital twin idea, right? It's just at the beginning, we're working on a 3D model from the design phase, getting the contractors involved. So like you said, they can utilize the experiences they have just generally in the industry, but also geographically, right? So there's geographic experience that is super helpful. So when now like you go from the design phase and now you're really starting to think about scanning the as is state and creating, really starting to form that digital twin, how, like, you can't do everything, right? So you can't have everything built into it. We don't have a supercomputer on to be able to house all of the data that is potential in that. So how do you decide what's included, what's not included? And yeah, I'll leave it at that. How do you decide?
In a big perspective, you can only have one ID, right, in a model, and everything is linked to databases around this ID. But for now, we need to include a lot of information in the models. Single source of truth, right? So going onto an IFC file that can be used by us, it can be used by the client, it can be used by the contractors on multiple platforms. So not having that connected databases, but having a unique file that everybody has their belief on and know what's in. That's gives us a good potential and has been very helpful for those projects that has delivering on a high digital ambition. Mm-hmm.
I think you just said something really important, and it was I think at the beginning of my digital twin journey, it was a misconception that I had that there was kind of like the Lord of the Rings, that there was one software to rule them all. And you just said multiple platforms are being utilized. And I think that was an important aha moment that I had, that the digital twin isn't about the software and how it's being utilized across all. It's how the data is, or I'm asking this now, is it about the openness of the data to be utilized across all stakeholders in the platforms of their choice.
Absolutely. And to have the possibility of doing that, there's some elements that we need to consider, and that one part is how accurate or mature is that information. So you probably heard about level of development, LOD, in your industry, and yep. In Norway, we have made something we call a model maturity index. So it's approximately the same as a level of development. So not talking about the geometry, talking about the non-geometry, and talking about documentation. So it's more than just the detailing of the model or a number of vertices or detailing. But the model maturity index gives the client, the contractors, information of how long this model has come within its lifetime or life cycle. So life cycle could be a project, or it could be the whole life cycle, which in asset management as well. So it's actually a value-based system. So 100 is a value that can show this is a sketch, this is an early preliminary design, going to LOD 300, it has been through some quality assessments, and it's getting ready to be constructed. And if it comes to a value that we have now set in Norway that should be 500 or 600, it doesn't matter, but then it is finished. It's a model that could be implemented in a digital twin. So we need to consider the maturity of the actual design when we go to a model-based approach.
So it's kind of the like the saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if the model, so I feel like at the beginning stages of BIM, right, which I wouldn't even say, I would say the beginning and in the intermediate stages of BIM, it was kind of like a checkbox, right? Like, we created a BIM model for you, and it was fairly immature, as you were just mentioning there. So it sounds like the evolution of a model into a like digital twin status has to do with how mature that model is and can be, so that it can continue to be developed and matured over time. Is that an accurate statement?
That's an accurate statement. And you also need to, at least for doing the construction, we need to choose what has the highest privileges or highest ranking. You have the bill of quantities, the quantifications of a project. You have the contract, you have models, and you have drawings. Which of those are going to be the highest ranked or privileged in that case? And so some years ago, we provided models, we provided also drawings. And nobody said that the focus is on the model. We need to accommodate the model and use the model. And then you had the case that somebody used the model, somebody used the drawings. The models gets old, the drawings get used, and then we get this mix up that and confusion, and also going into lawsuits because people. The information can't be a single source of truth when having a dynamic model and a static drawing.
I think you mentioned that the leading edge of any digital transformation is the client. The client needs to want it. All right, so I'm gonna take that statement and I'm gonna kind of flip it a little bit, or not flip it, but kind of just reposition that into a little bit of a question. So if you're in front of a client and they don't know that they want it yet, like you need to educate them. So what are you telling them? Why do you need to want this? What is important to them?
Yeah, there's a couple of angles that you could take going into that discussion. One part is actually talking about the benefits that would you have in the long run. So having the possibility to start building this digital twin that I talked about, that has to begin early, right? In the preliminary design, having the possibility to step into detailed design and also provide value for the construction. So talking to them about the bigger picture here, that this change from going from paper-based or drawing-based to a model-based approach is having a value for the future. And also then having this, let's call this the single source of truth, this cloud model or this BIM viewer that everybody can go into, having the same information up to date through the cloud, combining BIM and GIS. The benefits are enormous. So yeah, and my manager or the office manager talks about we have to do the first digitalization to collaborate better. So the digitalization is example using the cloud. Then we can collaborate better within the cloud systems, and then we can try to be more innovative and more sustainable. So it's a step to journey or yeah.
But step one is collaboration, and then we're not going to get anywhere without it. Like that's the first piece. And
digitalization, going into a single source of truth, or a digital twin as the base point, is a good way to start that good collaboration, of course.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a fun journey in terms of kind of. I feel like we've come back to the beginning of digital twin in terms of what is this. This could have been the first question of the interview. What's the most important thing about a digital twin is that it's about collaboration, right? And if you really think about it, if you had every stakeholder that's that is involved in the design, the build, and the operation of an asset, all living in the same house. Yeah. There's going to be good collaboration. You'll be able to build it and maintain it successfully, and because you're going to be able to share data because you're all in the same house. But we don't all live in the same house. Oftentimes, the people involved in these type of things don't even live in the same country. So it's important that we have this vehicle, this technology, this disruptive technology, like you said, you have a passion for, that'll help us lead us down that road.
Yeah.
So, last question for you. All right, this is a question that has nothing to do with digital twins, or maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll leave it up to you. What is your motto, or what's a motto that you've heard that you think is an interesting means to live by?
Yeah. I have a coworker that's always been preaching that high speed or pace will never substitute choosing in the right direction. So I do like that one. A good method of working strategically in choosing. But as a role designer, I have a saying maybe in Norwegian. I try to translate it, but veien er målet. The goal is the journey. So finding the motivation along the path of life for a project that you embark on. That's what would be my motto, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like the enjoying the journey. It's very similar to fall in love with the problem, not the solution. Yeah, right. Because the goal is the solution, but the problem is that journey. So I like it. I'm right there with you. Well, Jerry, thank you very, very much for joining us and sharing your experiences. Really appreciate you joining the show. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you.
And to everybody listening, watching, once again, thanks for joining us. And until next time, stay connected.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Connected Construction Show. For more information, visit us at connectedconstructionshow.com.